Want to wish a happy birthday to Mr. Garcia.
Wow.
I only have a little behind me. Several more to go.
All right, we're good.
Okay, we can start now. All right, I want to welcome everyone to the Castaic Union School Board meeting of March 11th, 2020. We are opening the meeting at 6:06 p.m. and we just want to report that no action was taken in closed session. We will now start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. All right, ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
With liberty and justice for all.
Just for all, thanks.
Don't worry, Maureen, I got you covered.
That's like the first time that's ever happened.
That's what happened to me.
I was like, what would happen if I forgot? And then I forgot.
Yeah. Hello, welcome to my world.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by Ms. Pearson,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Richard, and we'll vote. Mrs. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm,
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and I by Maureen Burke. Motion passes. And so now we will move on to special items and recognitions and our spotlight on success. And I just wanted to thank everyone. I know that our vote last month wasn't unanimously loved for to start our hybrid schedule, but I just want to thank all of our teachers for coming back. I think it should be noted that there are almost 80 school districts in our county and only 22 of them have kids back on campus. And ours is one of them. And I think that our teachers and that they all deserve credit for that, that we've got our teachers back here and honestly across our valleys. So anyway, I just want to thank you. Thank you for that. Is there anyone else?
I ditto what you said. It's been so fun going to school sites and seeing kids. And the first week when we were chatting, it was so cool. Mr. Doyle and Mrs. West recognized we didn't have any criers in our kindergarten TK classes. And everybody, even parents, it was just so neat to see them all back. So it's been a great few weeks. And I think the PALs big time and their staffs and their teachers and all of them for just having such great protocols. It just is just like that when you go and just hang out and visit. So I'm proud of our district because I know it was a collective task from district office, transportation, custodial, facilities, everybody. So thanks, guys. You're wonderful.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited people are getting vaccinated. Whew, that makes me feel so much better. I'm done.
I too am very excited that everybody's come back. I want to thank the teachers and the staff for all their hard work. Trying to keep everybody safe. I know we've had a couple of mishaps, but it's nice to have people on the campus and have our teachers working as hard as they always do. Staff working as hard as they always do.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone's just done an amazing job. Everyone, all staff. So we just appreciate it. And we can just see how hard everyone's worked when we go to campus and we just see how smoothly everything's going. So we do really appreciate it. All right, are there any other comments? Okay, all right. We will now move on to the portion of our meeting where we get to honor our Castaic Union District Teacher of the Year recipients. And who is doing?
Turn over to Mrs. Treddy.
All right, I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Treddy.
Well, good evening, everyone. And it is truly an honor and a pleasure to talk about our fabulous teachers. All of our staff, as you have already noted, is just exceptional. But we are honoring 4 of the best tonight. And I am very excited that you get to hear a little bit about each one of them. I had the pleasure to observe each one of them, and they truly are just giving and have such a teacher heart and care so much about our Castaic community. And it's just, just we are so fortunate that they work with us. So I'm going to turn it over now to each principal so that each person can spotlight his or her teacher, and we're going to go in alphabetical order. So we'll start with Castaic Elementary School. So Mrs. West.
Good evening. On behalf of Castaic Elementary School, it's an honor to be recognizing Mrs. Allison Barron as our Teacher of the Year. Allison Barron has spent the last 7 years teaching students in a mild moderate special day class setting. Currently, she's providing specialized academic instruction via a learning center model that focuses on inclusion and a multi-tiered system of support. Many of the students that Mrs. Barron works with struggle with learning, and school can be tough for them. Mrs. Barron has an amazing ability to take grade level standards and create modified lessons to make learning accessible for all of her students. She spends countless hours researching, learning, and developing engaging lessons. As with many teachers, Mrs. Barron's workday pretty much never ends. She's always working. She can often be talking to her colleagues, including me, until late at night, collaborating and sharing ideas to reach her students. Mrs. Barron is also always willing to learn and serve our school community. She's a member of our teacher leadership team, as well as being a member of other professional development committees. At Castaic Elementary School, we're thrilled to be honoring Allison Barron this school year as our Teacher of the Year. So Allison, who do you have with you tonight?
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to work for such a wonderful district and to have such an amazing and supportive principal and staff and school. With me, I have my daughter, Olivia, my husband, Robert, my mom, Linda, my daughter, Emma, who's on the floor, and then my mom's husband, Richard.
Oh, it's nice to see all of them. And Olivia is a Cub this year, so we get to see her quite Congratulations, Allison.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mrs. Barron. You truly are just an exceptional teacher and have such a gift in how you just intentionally and fluidly take into consideration what your kids need. And, you were just very gifted teacher, and we are very fortunate that you work with our students. So congratulations. And moving on now to Castaic Middle School, Mr. Bob Brauneisen.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm glad to be here. We are honored at Castaic Middle School to honor Miss Janetta Thomas as our Teacher of the Year. All right. Hey, I'm not sure what else I can say except for it's all good. All right, that's Janetta's tagline. She worked with me, not for me, but with me at North Lake Hills. And I was thrilled to have her come up to Castaic Middle School and try her luck with the middle school student. She's done a wonderful job teaching science, taking on an entirely new content, a much more complicated content with peers that really, hate to use the term, keep you under a microscope or look at you that way of just making sure that she's teaching the content right. She's just done a phenomenal job moving from elementary to middle school. She fits in great. She's great with the students. She is extremely humble, and she has no idea how good she is for the families and the students, because when I announced that she was our Teacher of the Year, she was truly surprised and did not think that it should have been her, which even makes it that much nicer when it was her. So Janetta, the families are extremely lucky to have you up there at Castaic Middle School, and I'm glad to have you there as well. Congratulations. Who's with you?
Well, first of all, thank you, Bob. That was really very nice. And I was surprised. I still am. I'm kind of like, ooh, this is kind of exciting. But with me, I have my model in terms of teaching, my mother. This is my mom. And then I have my niecey poo. This is Ashani over here, who was a product of Northlake and Castaic Middle School. So,
Yes, she was.
yes, she was. So thank you so much. And it's good to see all these faces, and I appreciate, and I have a lot of friends and family that are out watching too. So I appreciate all of them. Thank you.
Congratulations, Janetta. You know, you are just so giving in how you support your students. And, you know, you may not have set out to teach middle school, but creating relationships with that age group is something that you are just exceptional at. And, you know, and the engaging lessons that you've planned in this remote environment is just so impressive. So it was an honor to observe you and to get to know you a little better. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So
Can I
now
just-
we move.
Can I just add, I'm sorry. You said she's great with creating relationships with kids from middle school, but I have to tell you that my daughter has friends, she's 25, that were in school at Northlake Hills with her as an elementary school that she still keeps in touch with. And they're in their mid-20s now. So she has amazing relationships, and she's got that personality that you just gotta love her.
And we do.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Ms. Pearson. Okay, let's move on now to Live Oak with Ms. Stephanie Beach.
Hello, and I am so honored to have the District Teacher of the Year at Live Oak this year. Brian Millette is a homegrown Castaic Union School District through and through. He was a student and went through Castaic Union School District. He actually went to elementary school at the old Castaic elementary site, and then to the middle school when it was first opened, and then came back as an aide and an EL aide and a substitute, and finally a teacher. And we are so happy to have him back at Live Oak, which he considers a home because it's where his mother worked for 17 years as an aide. And if you get to watch Brian teach, it's truly an amazing thing. It's a combination of childlike enthusiasm and total professionalism. He works hard to build amazing relationships with all his students and with his parents and his colleagues. He always has a positive attitude and a smile on his face every day, even when he may be totally exhausted, because I don't know how he keeps 4- and 5-year-olds entertained all day, but he does, and even virtually. And he was a pioneer for bringing kids back on campus. When we first started cohorts, he brought his TK students back, and he was one of the first to room in Zoom. It has totally been a model for those teachers on our staff. We now have all our teachers on board rooming and Zooming at Live Oak because I think of the example that Brian set. And he is willing to help anyone who has questions and let them observe. And outside the classroom, he's super helpful on campus. He's organized multiple family PE nights. He's active in our PTA. He'll throw on the spot costume anytime we ask and be our mascot. And if you want to see him, come by the drive-thru on St. Patrick's Day, and he will be there as Spot. And we are just so lucky to have him on our campus. So Brian, why don't you model your amazing shirt?
Oh, yes. Miss Danielle and Stephanie had this awesome shirt made. It says District Teacher of the Year. It's got the Castaic logo on it. It's got a saying I said apparently at one point. But yeah, feels really good to wear this, and you know, it means a lot to me. And the words that you said, Stephanie, thank you so much. And thank you so much for choosing me as District Teacher of the Year. I mean, it's such a huge honor. I mean, like Janetta said, I'm in disbelief, like I'm speechless, you know, like it's just such a humbling experience, just getting to grow up in Castaic, be a part of the district as a kid, and now get to, you know, work with some of the amazing teachers that I had, get mentored by them, taught by them, And now I actually get to teach and make a difference for kids growing up too. It's just a phenomenal feeling. So just feels amazing. So I just want to say thank you to everybody at Live Oak in the Castaic District, Castaic Elementary, North Lake too. I've been to all the sites. So it just means a lot. And I really take it to heart and appreciate it a lot.
And you know what? I want to jump in real quick because when I saw your name on there, I just shook my head and said, well deserved. Every time I went into your classroom, I just see the energy that you pour out, and everything is a performance. And I know by the end of the day and the end of the night, you have got to be exhausted, like every one of our teachers. But I'm speaking about you. I enjoy walking into your classroom, and I love what you do. Great job.
Thank you, Mr. Malcolm. That means a lot. Thank you so much.
Well, congratulations, Brian. We are so fortunate to have you with us, particularly because you work with some of our first Castaic students, our littlest learners that come to you in TK. And what they learn from you is that school is enjoyable and it's engaging and it's fun. And you have 4 and 5-year-olds in there that are just so excited and can't wait to be back with you. And we saw that it's evident when we're not in a pandemic. And then we saw that when you were rooming and Zooming with your students. So we're just very fortunate, and you do bring so much pleasure to those kids. So thank you for everything you do and the energy you put into your life's calling.
I appreciate that, Kim. Thank you so much. And thank you again, everybody. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
So now we're on to North Lake Hills with Miss Vivian Fiss.
Thank you. We are proud to share that Miss Schubert, or Miss Taylor, as we fondly call her, is our North Lake Teacher of the Year. And not many people know this, but Miss Taylor has been working in person with our moderate and severe special education students since September. She was one of the first groups to come back in person, and the safety of our students is a top priority. She makes sure that those protocols are followed every single day. Her students absolutely love her, and this is clear to everyone when their little faces light up as they arrive in the morning. Miss Taylor has many exceptional qualities. She has a kind heart and is very patient. She's also demonstrated outstanding technology skills in supporting our students virtually as well as in person. Ms. Taylor deeply cares for all of her students, and this is evident in her daily lessons. So North Lake Hills is very proud to have Ms. Taylor as our Teacher of the Year. Congratulations. And Ms. Taylor, who do you have joining you tonight?
Well, I just want to say thank you so much. It's truly an honor. I feel like I work with the best staff over at North Lake, so being honored by them was amazing. And then with who is the reason I got, so I'm happy he's here, and then my parents. So they came, and I wanted to say everyone, I love my students. They make me want to get up and do this every day, even a crazy world that we've been living in lately. And I truly work with the best staff. So thank you so much.
Congratulations. I'm sure they're all very, very proud of you, as we are as well. Thank you.
Congratulations, Taylor. What you see when you go into Taylor's room is you see a teacher with very high expectations. You see kids that want to live up to those expectations. She's providing opportunities for them, well organized, and every single student just absolutely loves her. Her staff love her. And Taylor, we are so grateful for you and your special gift that you have with this particular population. And I don't know what we would do without you. So happy you're here, and thank you for everything you do. All right. Well, I'm going to now move on to turn it back over to Ms. Burke.
All right. Thank you, Mayreen. May I say something real quick? Because I know I don't take too long, but for all the teachers and those who are just recognized, thank you so much. Mrs. Barron, we haven't had the privilege of you having our kids in your classes or anything. And so I So if I don't highlight you, I apologize. I don't know, but congratulations. And I just want to say thanks for all the other teachers. Mrs. Thomas, my kids have loved learning science, and thank you for encouraging them. I know, some of my kids, they struggle sometimes, and you've always encouraged them, and that's huge. And as a parent, to know your kids they love being there, that's great. And Brian, I know you had Jackson last year as TK, and he's squirrely. And I thank you for this. He loves school, and that's a huge part of what you're doing. And Taylor, on a different side, I know you coach my daughter in volleyball, so it's outside the quote unquote classroom. But thank you for always you greatly motivated her. So I just want to say thank you for all of you for what you've done.
So I'm sorry, I forgot that we have swag. And so, Mrs. Ortega, if you could take over and show the swag that we have for our Teachers of the Year. I'm so sorry, I almost forgot that. I don't know if we can see that, but our 3 Teachers of the Year, there it is, have a nice star obelisk. And for our District Teacher of the Year, Mr. Millette, we have a really nice plaque for you. And so those will be at the district office, and either you can come get them or I will be happy to deliver them so I can visit your classes again.
Those
and
are awesome.
Now back to
Thank you very much.
Janine, did you have something you wanted to say? I saw you raise your hand.
I just wanted to, I won't say a lot because, I'm still the ball bag of the district, even though I'm not employed there. But I just think all 4 of you are bomb awesome. And thank you for being leaders out there, and for being pioneers for new challenges. You each are unique in your own way. And I just am so proud to call you mine, or ours, I guess I should say. So congratulations. I'm so proud of all of you.
Thank you. And you guys have said everything. So thank you to all you teachers for all your hard work. And we're just so proud of you and glad that we can honor you tonight. All right, I will now, we're honoring Northlake Hills Elementary School tonight. So I'm going to let Mrs. Fiss take it over from here.
Thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and start with our student award. So for this, we will go ahead and hand it over to Ms. Gerke and Ms. Weiner, our 6th grade teachers, to help us honor Miss Charlotte Brown.
All right, so it is just me today. We are not switching this year, so I'm the only one who has had the pleasure of having Charlotte, but I can't say enough about her. Charlotte Brown is an amazing individual in so many different ways. First of all, she's brilliant and hardworking. Not only is she an avid reader with an incredible 6th grade vocabulary, but the level of grit she brings to each and every task put in front of her is truly remarkable. She challenges me to continue challenging her and is not afraid to ask questions. When she participates in class, it is clear that what she is saying has been carefully thought through. When she does make a mistake, she is quick to correct it or ask how to do so without hesitation. I've enjoyed getting to know Charlotte and who she is outside of school as well. Charlotte enjoys learning Kung Fu and horseback riding, has a sweet tooth, is a fellow Scorpio, and looks forward to traveling in the future, hopefully to Japan. In addition to a brilliant mind, Charlotte is incredibly kind and one of the most polite people I have ever met. Beyond pleases and thank yous, she is supportive of her classmates, respectful, and a team player. And while this has been a tough year for all of us in many ways, Charlotte has shown me what resilience looks like. In the face of so many challenges, she has persevered in a way that leaves me in awe and thankful to be her teacher. She is brilliant yet humble, confident yet kind. Congratulations, Charlotte. We are all very proud of you. So, yay.
Congratulations, Charlotte. And who is there with you tonight? Who's joining you?
Sorry. Hi. First of all, thank you guys so much. And today we have my mom. Say hi.
Hi, I'm Sherry Brown, Charlotte's mom. I'm so proud of her.
Oh, thank you. We got
School
my brother,
teacher Grammy,
Yeah,
Grammy,
my
the
brother over here.
homeschooler
Yeah.
for the
My
past
brother-
year.
Yep. My brother over here.
Steve.
Again, thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Well deserved, Charlotte. Congratulations. And I don't know if you caught it, but Miss Ortega was holding up a few little goodies that we will have for you ready for pickup at Northlake. So congratulations. You have a certificate and a Lazy Dog gift card there, so you can enjoy that. So congratulations, Charlotte. We're so proud of you. Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead.
Thank you all so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next Spotlight Awards for Northlake Hills. But before I do, I just wanted to announce, before I announce the Teacher of the Month, I just wanted to take a moment to share that on behalf of all of the principals, we are very proud of our teachers this school year. We have asked our teachers to do some remarkable things, and we're very grateful for their dedication to our students during these unprecedented times. We really felt that together as a PAL team, as Ms. Maxim likes to call us, we wanted to share that message with all of our teachers. So let's go ahead and move on to our Teacher of the Month. The Northlake Teacher of the Month is Miss Stephanie Malik. Miss Malik is our TK teacher at Northlake Hills, and she has done an outstanding job this year. She has served as our team leader in representing TK in kindergarten. She collaborates and supports her grade level teams. She has also done an exceptional job in supporting her students with in-person instruction as well as virtually Zooming. On top of everything else, Ms. Malik is welcoming when it comes to being inclusive with our students with disabilities. So on behalf of Northlake Hills Elementary School, congratulations, Mrs. Malik, on being selected Northlake's Teacher of the Month. We are very proud to have you part of our staff. Congratulations. And who do you have with you tonight, Mrs. Malik?
Thank you very much. I have my husband, Andrew, my daughter, Katie, and my sons, Jonathan, Brandon, and Christopher.
Hello.
Hi.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm sure that everyone is very proud of you. And I always like to share one of the biggest compliments a teacher could ever give us is to have their own students, their own children as students at our school. And Mrs. Malik has graced us with that honor to have her boys at our school. So thank you for that as well, Mrs. Malik. Congratulations. And we also have a certificate for you and a little bit of swag that will be waiting for you at Northlake Hills as well. Ms. Ortega will make sure we get that. Congratulations. So our next Spotlight Award are for our classified employees of the month. And we have two honorees. We would like to celebrate Miss Linda Nardiello and Miss Kathy Bauer. So under normal circumstances, Miss Bauer is actually our school-wide support SKIA. And under normal circumstances, Miss Nardiello is a yard duty. But during a pandemic, this year, we were given the flexibility to have our classified staff support us where we needed them the most. And in the case of these two amazing ladies, they have been doing everything from taking temperatures, helping with health screenings, and supporting teachers virtually. Ladies, your flexibility has been tremendous in keeping our students safe. So we wanted to take this opportunity to thank you and congratulations on this well-deserved honor of being selected as our classified employees of the month. Congratulations. And Miss Bauer and Miss, well, let's start with Miss Kathy Bauer. Who do you have with you tonight?
I have no one. My husband's working and my son is out making videos for his school.
Well, we are very glad that you were able to join us. I know you have been at Northlake for a very long time, Ms. Bauer, and we really appreciate your flexibility and your knowledge and your expertise, especially during these times. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. It means a lot.
And Miss Linda Nardiello, congratulations.
Thank you.
And who do you have with you tonight?
I have my husband, Victor.
Hello.
And my daughter, Leah. And my son, Luke.
Hey up.
Well, congratulations. And Miss Nardiello also allows us to have her own children at Northlake Hills, which is a tremendous compliment as well. So congratulations. I know we are all very, very proud of you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So next, I would like to congratulate our volunteer of the month. And it's interesting because some of you might be saying, well, I thought we didn't have volunteers right now during the pandemic. But the reality is we actually do have quite a few parents, and I wanted to honor Miss Vanessa Woolley for her countless hours and dedication. Miss Woolley has been volunteering her time as a parent representative on a variety of committees. She serves on the Citizens Oversight Committee for Measure QS. She also is a Northlake parent representative for our Castaic Schools Reopening Task Force. This task force was critical in safely bringing back our students. Additionally, she's also part of our Northlake Hills School Site Council. And this is countless hours of committees and meetings. And, you know, it's important to also acknowledge how parents can support and help us even in a virtual setting. So we really appreciate all of your time, Ms. Woolley. We are very grateful for your insight and your clarifying questions. Thank you, Ms. Woolley. We really appreciate your dedication and time.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And who do you have with you there?
I'm actually in Alabama right now. My sister just had a brand new baby. So this is my nephew. And so I'm volunteering to help with the baby this week.
Congratulations. Wow. And you know,
Thanks.
that's
It's been
really
super
quite a
fun.
testament, because despite even being in Alabama, you were still present at a meeting just yesterday. So thank you for your flexibility and of course your time. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's always fun.
Wonderful. So our last award is actually an award that we just added this year. It's a special award. It's called the Golden Eagle Award, and it is unique to Northlake Hills. The Golden Eagle Award was started this year to show our gratitude and to thank our community partners. So Castaic is very fortunate to have a partnership like this with RISE. For those of you that don't know, RISE is a licensed after-school daycare program that we offer at many of our elementary schools, including Northlake Hills. And RISE offers internet access, academic support, enrichment after school, and we're very fortunate to count on RISE even during a pandemic to support our working families and students with distance learning. So we have with us tonight the president of RISE, Mr. Frank Rodriguez, and our program manager of RISE, Mr. Ryan Nelson. We just wanted to take an opportunity to thank you both for your partnership and your ongoing support. So thank you very much. Congratulations on getting the Golden Eagle Award.
Thank you, Vivian. And actually, the person most deserving of the award is Michelle Paz, who I think is there as well. Michelle is a Northlake veteran of, I don't know, 35 years maybe. And she is the face and the heart and the hands of RISE and Castaic. So Michelle actually deserves all the kudos, but thank you very much.
We look forward to continuing this partnership, and thank you to Michelle Paz. Absolutely. She is absolutely amazing, and we are very grateful to have her on site at North Lake Hills. So congratulations to all of you. And if it's all right, should I just move into our presentation?
I was just gonna thank all of our volunteers and our invited guests to come this evening. We appreciate that you're able to come and show up, and we want to just invite you now to continue watching the meeting via the YouTube link on the website. Thank you so much for coming tonight. And now we'll start our presentation by Ms. Fiss on North Lake.
So I believe that's Ms. Burke's cue that if you need to go, that's okay. So thank you for joining us. Okay, so I will go ahead and share my screen. And if I could just get a thumbs up, maybe Ms. Hodson, if you can show me that you can see my logo. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So good evening, board members, families, and friends. My name is Vivian Fiss, and it is my pleasure to share an update on North Lake Hills Elementary School. Let me see here. Okay, and I'd like to start with a snapshot of our iReady diagnostic data. In language arts, we can compare our second diagnostic to our first diagnostic, and we can see that not only did our students that were below grade level represented in the red decrease from 17% school-wide to 13% school-wide, we also see that our tier 1 green group increased from 47% to 56%. So we're definitely moving in the right direction. And one of the things that I really like about iReady is it's continuously tweaking and improving how the data can help guide our instruction. So this next report is actually the same data, but it's teased out a little bit differently with this 5-level placement report. So here we can see that the 56% of the students in green for the second diagnostic is actually comprised of 34% of our students that are mid or above grade level, and 22% of our students that are on grade level. And there's a lot to this report, but basically these students would benefit from enrichment of curriculum that is above grade level. And this also helps us see that 13% of our students are in the red, and these students are currently below grade level and would benefit from intensive intervention. In math, we're able to also compare our diagnostic assessments, and we can see that not only did our students below grade level that are in the red decrease from 15% to 12% from first diagnostic to second diagnostic, our tier 1 green students increased from 32 to 45%. So we are definitely, again, moving in the right direction. And also wanted to share with you the teased out data from the 5-level placement report. And here we can really target our instruction to meet the needs of our students. I wanted to share also that this report is available to all teachers at a student level to help guide instruction and provide support where it is needed the most. So once again, very grateful to iReady for continuing to refine how they share their data with us so that we can better support our students. I also wanted to share that school-wide, we are doing our best to keep our students motivated. We have revamped our traditional store tickets and modified them to reward students meeting virtual expectations. So students are given tickets for demonstrating self-control, such as minimizing distractions, staying on task, making themselves visible, demonstrating virtual achievement, coming prepared, and of course, showing respect. And they can do this virtually by muting their microphone when others are speaking. So still consistent with the respect, responsibility, and results, but we modified it to motivate our students virtually. So one of my most favorite things about my job is selecting about 10 students a month from the hundreds and hundreds of SOAR tickets that we collect. And we reward our students with headphones, a scooter, or even a surprise pizza delivery. And we are very proud to share that we welcome back our students for in-person instruction with a hybrid model. Some of our teachers are using the Zoom and Room model where they're supporting students virtually while also teaching them in person. And it's important to note that although students are coming in person, they continue to receive synchronous instruction from their teacher. For example, if a student is coming 2 days a week in person, that's approximately 6.5 hours of in-person instruction. The other 3 days, they continue to receive about 2 hours daily in person, virtually, totaling over 12.5 hours of teacher-directed instruction. So this is separate from the asynchronous time that does not take into account also the additional office hours that our teachers are offering to provide extra support for intervention for our students. So there's no doubt that our teachers are working very hard to support our students, virtually and in person. I'm also very proud to share that in Castaic Union School District, we understand that our students need to interact with other children. They need to socialize. And we have made accommodations for students to play and have recess while still maintaining safe distances and adhering to all the safety protocols. You will also notice that when visiting our campus that our students have found fun ways to socially distance using their superhero arms to stay a safe distance apart. And we practice hand washing every single day before entering the classroom. So our students are truly enjoying their time on campus, and we can certainly see the smile in their eyes as they walk around school. And I wanted to make sure I mentioned that our North Lake Hills Volunteer Club continues to support our students and find fun ways to celebrate them. We've continued our tradition of Outstanding Eagle Awards. We're doing them virtually and then inviting students to come take a picture and pick up a treat. We also have our drive-through celebrations. And next week, we will be hosting a family paint night. So our North Lake Volunteer Club has been incredibly supportive throughout this whole pandemic. They have also generously supported our teachers with materials for their classrooms, including laptop carts to help them teach. So as you can see, this pandemic has not slowed down all of the great things that make North Lake Hills an outstanding school. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Vivian. That was a great report. And it was really fun to go to your school today and see all the kids arrive and see their superhero arms. That was really cute. And it was just really fun. So thanks for letting me come today, and thanks for all you do, and to everyone on your staff for helping your school succeed. So thank you. Are there any questions by any of the other board members? Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Fiss. We will now hear from the Castaic Virtual Campus Coordinator, Ms. Price. We're so glad you could come this evening and give us the report on CVC.
Thank you so much for having me. Congratulations to all the teacher winners and North Lake Spotlight winners. So proud of you all. And Janetta Thomas, that's for you. Congratulations. You make CMS a special place. So I am pleased to be here tonight. I would like to start off by saying how grateful I am for the CVC teachers to take on new challenges and completely rework what teaching looks like, to work tirelessly to connect with your students and families from not only one school, but all school sites is commendable. And so you're all doing this with passion, patience, flexibility, and grace, and it shows. And you are invested in your profession, and you definitely nurture over 350 of our amazing students. So I really, really thank you for embracing this new style of teaching. I'd also like to thank, of course, the 3 elementary principals, Mrs. Truddick and Mr. Brauneisen, for guiding me as a new coordinator. So welcome to Castaic Virtual Campus, CVC, 4 schools within 1 school. As I just mentioned, we have over 350 amazing Castaic students. Next slide, please. All right, I'd love for you to meet the elementary team. I have met 3 out of 10 of these fabulous teachers, and I cannot wait to meet them in person. We have Mrs. Boron, Mrs. Campos, Mrs. Jackson, Mrs. Lindquist, Mrs. McDonald, Mrs. Riley, Mrs. Silverlake, Mrs. Summers, oh, whoops, excuse me, Mrs. Turn and Mr. Zapay. And I also want to give a special thank you to all the CVC instructional aides for also helping out within our classrooms. I don't know why this PowerPoint is funky looking, but it sure is. We have 17 out of 20 teachers from Castaic Middle School who are CVC teachers. So when Castaic Middle School returns to in-person instruction, still 17 out of 20 of our teachers, go Cougars, will not only be teaching in person, rooming and zooming, but will also still have a CVC class. And so now let's talk about our CVC achievements. So Mrs. Boron's kindergarten class, the Penguin unit, was a huge success. Everything was done solely by the students, from the crafting, the labeling, the writing, as you can see. I love the happy faces, and as a result, authentic work done by a kindergarten student. Also, we have Happy President's Day by Mrs. Turn's first grade CVC class. These pictures, I absolutely adore them, and I giggle at them because they're charming. And I love how she incorporated both history with fine arts. On the left side of the screen, we have Mrs. Campos' second and third grade split class, and using Epic Online website, over 2,000 books have read. Some of her students read Charlotte's Web, and now they're reading James and the Giant Peach. And they also, every student wrote animal and Native American reports on Google Slides and presented on Zoom. On the right-hand side of the screen, thank you, Del. On the right-hand side of the screen, it's March Madness Tournament for Books. And if you're a basketball fan like I am, Mrs. Silverlake's class is the place to be. What she does is she reads 2 books that are going head to head, and then the students vote on their favorite. In Mrs. McDonald's 4th and 5th grade split class, they learned about the artist Lois Malu Jones. Students created some artwork inspired by her for Black History Month. I'm impressed with the incorporation of multicultural awareness and cross-curricular instruction using, again, fine arts and history. Science. Science is cool. As you can see here, Mrs. Jackson is definitely passionate about science as well as her students. Of course, using the next generation science standards, students are provided hands-on opportunities while remote learning. And if any of you are sugar fanatics like I am, the Oreo cookie models of the moon phases I absolutely love, love, and love. Not only does Mrs. Jackson teach all of the subjects, but every day her students do say a student pledge that they will do their best, and they will always do their best. What I find exceptional is that although the students are remote learning, they're still engaging outside of the classroom. CVC teachers have attended over 18 virtual field trips so far. Here are 2 pictures of Mrs. Summers' fourth graders visiting the Santa Clarita Water Agency and Voices of the Gold Rush at Shasta State Park. We have fourth grade student testimonials from Mrs. Summers' class. I think these are so cute. My favorite part of CVC is being able to work at home and not worry about catching COVID. I have more time for the cello and other things. My favorite part of CVC is I get to be in a class with 3 different schools. I get to meet other people that might not be in my school. And lastly, I thought this was sweet. My favorite part of CVC is having an amazing teacher and co-host. During the 6-week CVC iReady competition, kindergarten through 3rd graders versus 4th through 6th graders, students passed 2,619 reading lessons and 2,598 math lessons. So in addition to the competitions that were at each elementary school site, CVC teachers took on their own. The winner for K through 3 was Mrs. Lindquist's class for winning the 6-week competition with 426 lessons passed. And the winner for 4th through 6th was Mrs. Jackson's 5th grade class, winning with 347 lessons passed. Each student, all 50 of them, received a goodie bag with yummy fruit snacks and Hershey's Kisses. And we look forward to our upcoming CVC competition. This slide, this is CVC student recognition. So we have checks on the upper left, and in lieu and prizes, Mrs. McDonald's 4th and 5th grade split class give back to a charity of their choice. So instead of getting goodies or treats, they actually donate, Mrs. McDonald actually donates. So you can see here that we have the American Diabetes Association, and we also have the Castaic Animal Shelter. A lot of our CVC teachers have Friday Fun Day or Everyday Fun Day to mix student fun while learning. They have escape rooms, scavenger hunts, CUSD spirit days where there is so much participation, games, certificates of recognition, goodie bags, and more. And then many of our CVC teachers use the online site, which is Class Dojo. This website specifically, 3 back, please. Thanks. It fosters positive student behaviors such as attendance, participation, and work habits. CVC has spirit? Yes, they do. It doesn't matter what spirit day it is, these kids and these teachers are participating. You can see Mrs. McDonald, you can see Mrs. Summers in the middle, you can see Miss Boron in the top, but look at all of our cute kids. Conscious discipline has been a big push for the social emotional learning, of course, to make sure that we understand behaviors and to look at the whole child instead of just a little tiny part of him or her. I appreciate Mrs. Turn for incorporating into her class at the end of every single Zoom session. They put their hands over their hearts, breathe, and visualize good thoughts going out to each other as they wish each other well. And some more adorable pictures of our cute kids. And Mr. Zappe in the bottom right corner on the 100th day of school, dress like you're 100. So are there any questions about CVC?
First, I just want to thank you for that presentation. I know all of us on the board wanted to hear how things were going, so we appreciate the time that it took you to put that together. And I'm convinced I would really like to be a student at that school. So if you have any openings, please let me know, because that looks like a lot of fun, especially if Oreos are involved. So anyway, thank you. That was just great to see all the wonderful things that are happening on the virtual campus. And
thank you.
Thank you to everyone for making that a special experience for the kids. Are there any other comments or questions by other board members?
I would like to comment. I remember almost a year ago now when we asked the teachers to step up to do this kind of program, and teach a virtual campus class. And the teachers did it. And I can't even tell you the hoops that they have jumped through trying to make this a successful endeavor. These teachers have kids from all of the 3 elementary schools, and they have to deal with all of the principals, and they have to deal with all of the special ed teachers at every school. And they have numerous things that they have to do, but yet they're doing it, and they're doing it well, and they're spending a lot of time doing it. And I truly think that this was probably one of the biggest challenges that we faced this year as far as our teachers are concerned. Nicole, thank you so much for stepping up and helping those teachers as much as you can and what you can do. I know there's been a lot of giving along the way and what we can do to change things and make it better. And I can't even imagine, you know, you're teaching a group of kids from 3 different schools and you have to follow 3 different protocols and keep in touch with everybody. So hats off to those teachers, and they should all get recognition when this is all over. I just think that they've done an amazing job. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pearson, for your comments. All right, and thanks again, Ms. Price, for the presentation.
Thank you.
We will now move on to the next portion of the meeting. We're going to hear comments from our CTA president, Ms. Patty O'Mara. Oh.
Good evening, everyone. As I look back to when this began, March 2020, this is what I have observed. Fear of the unknown, teachers having to pull out all the tricks of their trade from the basket, long hours, and teaching in a way they could never imagine. In addition, the ever-changing guidelines starting from the state all the way down to Santa Clarita Valley districts, like a roller coaster with ups and downs. The stress among teachers, staff, parents, students, and the community has been overwhelming. With this said, the Cass State teachers and staff have continually come together, and with the return of students, got their classrooms ready, putting their concerns aside of not receiving the vaccine before students returned. I want to recognize all the teachers and staff for their dedication and professionalism they have shown through these COVID times. Thank you, teachers and staff. We have faced big challenges, impossible tasks, and difficult problems. Whatever the case, once again, we have risen to meet these daily challenges and are willing to give our very best. Thank you. Now I have to do my side note. The teachers are still concerned about the limited subs we have in Santa Clarita Valley. Not just Cass State, it's in the whole district. We fear that there is not enough substitutes supporting our students if we get sick or need a day off. We hope that this issue will be addressed and our worry will be resolved. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty, for your comments. We will now hear from Ms. Buntich. She's from CSEA.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So many great people were honored here tonight. It's kind of hard to follow everybody that was recognized, but congratulations to everyone. CUSD really has some amazing people working for it, and I couldn't be prouder to work for this district in particular. I just wanted to talk to the board real quickly and let them know some of the continuing education that our CSEA members are currently doing. We've had several members attend the Paraeducator Conference that was held through CSEA itself. We have members that attended the Aries Spring Conference that took place this week. Our ELAs, once again, really pushed through and did a lot more grade level testing training. So I want to give a big shout out to them. They have been really working hard through this whole school year so far.
a lot of our members are updating their CPR and first aid certificates, and everyone is going to be completed with that by the end of this month. And then finally, our members are going to be taking part in conscious discipline training. So we have a couple of months to get that done, and we're continuing to grow. We're becoming more knowledgeable in our jobs and using those techniques every day and learning every day. So thank you very much, and thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, Jody, for your comments. We will now move on to the hearing session portion of the meeting, but actually there were not any requests to address the board submitted. So we will not be hearing anything from there. So we'll move on to presentations and reports. Mr. Doyle.
Well, I too want to reiterate and thank all of our employees for being able to pull this off. You know, Mrs. Burke pointed out there were only, we heard this on our call this morning from LACO, out of the 80 school districts in Los Angeles County, there are only 22 districts. And that includes the 4 districts in Santa Clarita that are open with in-person instruction. Many of you know my wife works up here in the Antelope Valley, West Side. Her students are coming back. Her first grade students are coming back next week. We have all of our TK through 6th grade students back, albeit in a hybrid model, but it wasn't without a lot of thought and planning and preparation from our administrative teams to all of our classified staff, our custodial staff, and of course our teachers. You know, we had the honor of thanking them all last week and providing a boxed lunch, a small token of our gratitude, but we so appreciate the work that everybody did. And it's been just my pleasure to be out the last 3 Mondays to see what looked like the very first day of school in August. Brand new school clothes, shiny shoes, new backpacks, a few tears from parents in the car as they waved away, but the kids were all happy. And, you know, we've had a couple bumps in the road. We've had 3 cases across our 3 schools over the last 3 weeks, but we're also part of the community and we know that's going to happen. What I'm really proud to report is we did not have subsequent outbreaks amongst those cases. So that means our protocols are working and that we are adhering to them. And if you go on any of our campuses, you will see that we're really diligent about that. We're excited to bring Parent Square on board and use that as a platform for our screening tool. Every day we're getting more and more parents signed up, and it's really an easy process just to ensure that we safely screen all employees and our staff. So we're really proud of that. I want to give a huge shout out to the William S. Hart District and the Henry Mayo Newhall Hospital. I could tell you we'd be sitting here today with probably some different tones from our friends if it weren't for the fact that probably the vast majority of our employees have had an opportunity, should they choose, to be vaccinated. I was fortunate to get my first dose last Saturday, and it was like clockwork. I was so impressed the way the hospital had it down to just an art. So by the end of the month, before we go on spring break, those that want to will all have their second dose. And so that's a huge relief for us. On our call this morning with Dr. Farrar, the LA County will be moving next week into the red tier. The Safer Blueprint data that's reported every Tuesday, LA County's at 5.2 cases per 100,000. A far cry from January where it was at 120 cases. So as a society, we've done our part in social distancing and wearing our masks and following all of the rules. So that helps. So I'm happy that tonight we're going to be able to discuss the opportunity to bring our 7th and 8th graders back, which will complete our cycle. So that's very encouraging. Our teachers of the year this year, so glad that we could honor them. Stay tuned because on April 30th, Friday night, we'll be doing a virtual Teacher of the Year celebration again. And we can't wait. We were able to do that back in December for last year's teachers. So always a fun time to be able to recognize our folks. So with that being said, we're really excited to continue to have our students back. And we look forward to a really positive end of the school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle, for that report. Are there any questions from any of the other board members for Mr. Doyle? Okay. We will now move on to the Educational Services report from Ms. Tredick.
Well, hello again. And it is LCAP season. And this year is definitely a group effort. We have an amazing group of stakeholders. We had our first stakeholder meeting yesterday. We have parents, community members, staff who are all willing to participate in the stakeholder meeting, ensuring that we do what's best for our students. I want to share with you something we did yesterday at the beginning of the stakeholder meeting. I asked everyone to think of one word that they would use to describe Castaic and the Castaic Union School District. And then on the count of 3, everyone entered it in the chat and we let it, it's called waterfall, and it all filled the chat. And there were 3 that were repeated multiple times, and it was caring and family and community. And that's really what we're seeing with, I mean, it's always been this way in Castaic, but we're really seeing that with the effort that people are putting into the work that they're doing. And our teachers and our classified staff and our administrators are all just working so hard, and they do care, and it is a family. So the stakeholders really appreciate their time. With the LCAP, we are in the process of gathering information, looking at our data, and we will be sending out surveys to all staff and all parents and students. Our students have taken the California Healthy Kids survey in 5th grade, and then next Wednesday, 2 weeks from now, our CMS 7th graders will be taking the California Healthy Kids survey. So we will have those results to consider as we create our new actions for our new LCAP. I wanted to share a few things that Jody already mentioned. Ms. Boone did talk about some of the training. We are so fortunate to have the EL instructional aides that we have. They did probably 15 hours of training in order to help administer the LPAC, which we're in the middle of the LPAC summative exams now. And they are scheduling kids and following protocols and bringing students in to test our English learners for their English proficiency levels. And they are just going above and beyond. And they will continue. They work hard. They know these families. They create relationships. So a shout out to our EL instructional aides. We also have had, in the last 2 weeks, 6 hours of training for the Elevation platform, which is the platform that we have now started using to manage and keep track of our English learners and all of their scores, the documentation, the monitoring, the reclassification. So it's a platform that our EL lead teachers and our principals have been trained, and Ms. Price have been training through the last 2 weeks. And then Jody also mentioned conscious discipline. We are so excited that this is something that we are offering to the entire staff. So every single person in the Castaic Union School District has the opportunity to participate in a 7-hour well-being program for adults. And so we're really excited about that. There's a lot of enthusiasm around that, and just a lot of really good things happening. In addition to that, the principals, I need to shout out to the principals and the training they have been participating in. We are working, Becky Wetzel from Bridges to Excellence, our consultant, has been training our principals with fine-tuning their instructional leadership skills in the area of teacher clarity. And so that is something that we intend to continue with our principals, as well as extending that to our teachers. So a lot of really, really positive things are happening with the best staff in the universe. So does anyone have any questions for me around educational services? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kim, for your presentation. We will now move on to the business services report, and I will let Ms. Hodson lead that.
Good evening.
There you are.
I'm here. I want to reiterate everything that everyone else has said. We cannot say it enough. our staff has been amazing and worked so hard with our parents in the community to get our kids back in school. When we were at this campuses, the parents being patient going through the line, but the staff that stepped up and made those drop off and pickups happen. It was just fabulous and amazing to watch it, because people were not working within their job classification or their job duties. They were just doing what we needed to be done for the kids. And the kids were patient, the parents were patient. And it warms my heart that we were able to make that happen as an organization. So everybody stepped up and has been amazing. Julia is going to do a presentation for the budget later this evening, so I'm not going to talk about that. There's a lot that's been happening at state and federal level, and she is monitoring that, and I'll let her talk about all of that. On the agenda, you see the construction project items, you see technology. Usually at this point in time of the year, we are wrapping up this school year, preparing for next year. And, but at this same time, have the first day of school 6 times. So it's been amazing. It's been a lot of work, but it's all been worth it. I think Jaime is going to introduce Davis demographics and do the demographics study. I don't know if he has anything else he needs to add, but for me, from a business services standpoint, all the action items are on there, and I'll let them talk about that. I do also, business services is starting to prepare the implementation of the best HCM program for payroll and human resources. So we started that work this week. We will be going live in the new payroll system in October. So in addition to all of this other stuff, Julia, Wendy, and Sherry will be spending a great deal of time getting ready to implement that. So with that, I will turn it over to Jaime. Unless there's questions.
Questions? Thank you, Lynette. Yeah, I do have a little update from Measure QS at demographic report. I think I'll let Mr. Cates go first and walk us through the latest demographic report for fall to 2021. So, David, turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, honey, and happy birthday to you. I heard it was your birthday.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember when we first met, I think we both had really darker hair.
Yeah, and my hair has gotten a little lighter and thinner over the years as well. It's been many years. So happy birthday to you. I first want to make sure I could share my screen. I'm going to kind of run the PowerPoint from my, give me a moment here, and share. If you guys can give a thumbs up that you can kind of see my screen of a map. That's good. Okay, good. All right. Well, I'm glad to hear all the good news coming from your district. It's amazing what a year makes. I typically do this presentation annually. Unfortunately, at this point last year, all of you had a lot more important things than to hear me ramble on for like 20 minutes. So I'm going to give you kind of the update. It's probably been a couple of years since you've seen, and hopefully you read our report last time and this time, but give you a little overview and open up to your questions to see what you might have I could hopefully answer for you. Let me move on to the next. Oops, sorry, there we go. All right, again, just to remind you, we do many things for the district, but what we do every late September, early October, acquire the latest snapshot of your student data, which we did again this last fall. We visit and track the residential development going on in your district. We also work for the Hart District and Newhall, so we cover the whole valley. I'm out there. I did visit back in October the developments, and I was able to see that some dirt was been moving out in your district area finally. I also like to just get to see things every year myself, so I do that. We make calls to the cities and the county and the other developers to get an idea of what's going to be happening over the next 7 years. That's kind of our window we look at. So we update the development, we update other relevant data I'll share with you in a moment. We wrap it up into a report, every year for you. We've been doing this for many years. It's hard to believe. It's been 30 years. We've been working with the districts in the Valley. So we go through this process that we call geocoding. I kind of say this to you every year. You might not realize it, but you do a form of geographical information systems every day, a GIS. When you put into your phone or your computer where you want to go and quickest way to get there, it maps or geocodes the point you're going to, reads up to the satellites, gives you the latest traffic, and you're using essentially the same technology we've been doing for over 30 years, except that we locate and put a dot where your students live. We know where they live in relation to their schools, their boundaries, real life drive distances, walk distances, and that's what we've been doing for all these years. We also take that information, once we have the student data mapped, we can overlay it onto your boundaries. And we generate what's called an attendance matrix. And with this, it allows you to see the ins and outs and the transfer patterns within your district. So for example, I could use my mouse, you can see in Castaic's boundary, as of the snapshot date, I think it was late September, or I think maybe October 1st, 300 students lived in the boundary, 290 of those students attended Castaic, 4 went out to Live Oak, 6 went out to North Lake Hills, and then a special ed class student. Overall, 301 total living in the boundary. When you read down the column, this tells you the attendance. So we know that 290 Castaic students live in their boundary and attend the school. 66 students came from the Live Oak area. 50 came from the North Lake Hills area, combining for 406 students. Add in 8 transitional kindergartners, 8 students come from completely out the district, and here's your enrollment, 422 as of that date. So you get to see your district through a kind of what I call a different set of eyes. The principals, your staff's very familiar with these numbers here, but you might not know the distribution of students in relation to their boundaries. And then you can look on this chart over here for the transfer in, transfer out of each school. And altogether, you have about 45, this is the K6 matrix, 45 K6 students coming from completely outside the district. So it gives you kind of a good snapshot of what was happening in your district as of that certain date. And you'll notice I put on my PowerPoint the pages in the report, and you can find these documents. This is a quick little model of the methodology that we use in our forecasts. And I'll show you how these all work. We bring in historical birth data to estimate future kindergarten classes. We look at your recent 3 or 4 years of student data to some of the established parts of your district, what happens as the students transition from grade to grade. We call those the mobility factors. And then we bring in the development, and we apply what's called student yield factors, or sometimes known as student generation rates, to estimate the new students coming in every year from the new housing. And that kind of goes right into and forms our projections. So let's kind of look at some of these factors one by one. This is the one that kind of really changed this year. This is the birth data. And on this table, this orange highlighted row here, this is what we call our base year. So we look at this year's kindergartners in 2020. When were they born? Roughly 5 years earlier. So we pull up by zip code, the predominant zip code in your district, the number of students born in each of these particular years. So everything above this line is just more for historical reference. And it does kind of show you back, 10, maybe lower 10 years or 15 years ago, that you had much larger numbers of births in that zip code, and it's kind of been steadily dropping. But one of the things I want to point out here, and this is where we'll get into the COVID impact, if you look at the 2014 or last year's 2019's kindergarten class size, roughly, you had about 223 born, and then you compare it to the next year, we expected an increase. If you look at my report from over a year ago, prior to COVID, we would have expected your kindergarten class size to grow. As I'll show you in a moment, we all know it did not. And I'll talk about that as well. But you can look at the future years, and this helps us give us estimates on should your kindergarten class size be larger, the same, or smaller in future years. And then, of course, these later years they're not born yet. So we do averages out here. But because of the COVID impact, where not just your district, but most of the public school districts in the entire country saw a substantial decline in their kindergarten enrollment, mostly because I think, as you know, and maybe parents found out last year, kindergarten is not necessarily a required grade in the public schools. They could be taking them in daycare or other courses. So they held back their kids, if you will. And in transitional kindergarten as well, parent choice. So during the snapshot date, you see a big dip in the kindergarten. It's an artificial dip because, as I just showed you here, we were expecting growth. You were probably expecting growth in the kindergarten, and it didn't happen. So we had to come up with a way, as our company, we only do forecasting for K-12 school districts. So we had to think about how could we creatively get in a way to not just take those lower numbers. And of course, if we used only those, your forecast would go straight down. And that's not reality, not necessarily. So we made kind of a one-time adjustment. And as you can kind of see here, my little message here, we believe that, parents are going to bring their kids back. I don't know if they'll be quite to the level they were or expected to be, but we don't expect it to be continuous declines. And I'm already hearing you're getting students back in the classroom, and hopefully by the fall, when most all of us have had our vaccines, maybe we'll actually be somewhat back to normal. So to estimate and get the kindergartens back up, we did this study for most of our clients. For your district, we figured we needed to bump up what we call the birth rates about 20%. And I'll show you the impact and why this was needed. It was to get those kindergarten class sizes the next 7 years to look realistic. And therefore, that has the ripple effect for your future years. So this was a rare occurrence where I'd go in and artificially increase a particular factor rather than just going with the normal numbers, which are here. So I'll show you the impact in a moment, and you'll get to see what these adjustments did to your forecast. So let's show you some of the historical birth data here. This is the correlation to the number of students being born in your zip code compared to the corresponding kindergarten class 5 years later. So you can kind of see it's been lower. It's not you're not capturing necessarily all of them. Some of them could have moved in 5 years or whatnot, but you more or less had the last 5 years prior to this year, about an 85% capture rate of those. And then you can see this year, and actually I should have moved it. This base year actually is right here. You can see that here was those numbers I showed you earlier, expecting them to go up. And in fact, they went down. And that's because of the parents holding back their children. And then these are the trends for the future, the next 3 or 4 years. And we've probably gone down a little bit next year and then start popping back up to larger kindergarten classes in the next few years. So we'll get to that and the impact on the birth date in a moment. The other major factor is what we call mobility factors. And what this is, we take your district into your elementary, break it up into your elementary zones. And even though I know your elementary schools do not have 7th and 8th graders, we just use them as a region. So we break your district up into your 3 distinct regions. What are the trends in your established areas in your district as they transition from kindergarten to first to second to third? And here's your district-wide numbers. So I'll start at the district-wide for a moment and make you realize that, even though it's red, which means decline, it's not a large decline. 98% means if you have 100 kids, kindergartners 1 year, the next year you'd have 98. It's not very dramatic. 99 is virtually a straight pass-through. which is what a 1.00 is. And anything above a 1 means you're net gaining. This particular factor takes into account housing resales. That's probably the largest impact as parents move out, take kids with them, older kids maybe, come in with newer, younger kids in certain parts of your district. That's where you see kind of the numbers pop out above 1. But even the declines are fairly minimal. You pretty much are retaining all your kids district-wide, some areas more than others, and all the way out into your middle school grades as well. So this is really good. You're really not, even though it looks dramatic looking at the red, trust me, I have districts that have 5, 10, 15% declines. Yours are minimal, and I think it's very positive, and especially that you have this green. The green is not from development because 1, you haven't really had any development in a long time. And 2, even if you did, we do these studies excluding all newly built areas. So these factors will always be new development free, if you will. No development in at least 5 years in these areas. So it's really capturing, as I say down here, kind of your housing resale trends, apartment migrations as well. So that's an important part of your forecast, but overall it's fairly positive, I think. This is the development snapshot of what is going on in your district and what is planned in your district. I do this every year for you, and I think one thing we could say that's exciting now is you're really starting to finally see some dirt move and moving happening again. The Los Valles project, this is a fairly recent screen capture. They're regrading the project that sat vacant for many years. Maybe by later this year or early next year, you'll start to see some homes and students coming out of there. The other large projects you see around here are not happening yet, but I have talked to the owners, developers, city, the county, I should say, for your area. Also talked to 5 Points on the projects down here. Now, just before we get to the next comments here, the next slides, I always like to say that developers are always overly optimistic. I usually do publish almost verbatim what they tell me, because I'd rather have it come right out of their mouths right to you. But reality is reality, and I'll believe it when I see it. But this is what they're telling us. So with what I'm about to show you and the new growth potentially in your district, keep it with a skeptical eye. These units will happen at some point. It's just a matter of, are they going to happen over the next 7 years or get pushed out? The good news right now is that the housing market is very strong. Looked at developments a year ago compared to now. I can say that COVID had virtually no impact on the housing, and this is nationwide. So this is your area, but also nationwide, had virtually no impact in the long run by COVID. I can tell you, I worked with some districts where I was literally out in another state, actually was in Florida, mid-March last year, visiting developments, and when everything was just, all heck was breaking loose. And no one knew what was going on. The salespeople, much like you had to do for your district, had to rethink how they sold their homes. So they had to switch more to a virtual way rather than having people come and walk through models. And for a couple of months, through about May maybe, things were at a standstill. But almost unanimously, with all the salespeople I've spoken to, said, guess what? By July in the summer, they had their biggest, best growth they've ever had in their maybe history. So essentially what happened in the summer months made up for the loss in those earlier months. Now, again, I know there's not much development happening in your zone, your district, but for the Valley, it kind of picked up. And so what we were forecasting to show up by this fall came to be true. It just took a little bit of a roller coaster or bumpy ride to get there. So looking down there at the bottom, you can see overall in the next 7 years, you add up all these developments, We're talking about over 3,200 potential units that can be built during that time window. And there's going to be more beyond that because some of these projects will spill over beyond 7 years. But even the North Lake project is, potentially starting up again. Got Tapia Ranch, potentially Sterling Ranch. I don't know if that's really going to happen, but, and of course, depending on how Newhall Ranch progresses south of your district will depend on how quickly it gets to your district as well. So I won't go over the numbers here. I kind of just, gave you the overview, but this is in our report. We break it down by year, how many units, the ramp up. Mostly you're having the Los Valles project be your dominant project over the next couple of years. And about, we're hoping, 3 years or so, some of the other projects kick in, and then the 5 Points Landmark Village projects probably kicking in more in the later years, and they always have some really big numbers. So those are the ones that are going to go beyond the 7 years. But you could read my report for some of my notes in speaking with them. To generate the number of students that are going to come out of these homes, we do or generate or create, update your what we call student yield factors. These are what gets applied to the units. Majority, I didn't show you this, but the majority of the units, well, I shouldn't say the majority, but half the type of units that are going to be built in your district are going to be traditional single family dwellings. The other half are mostly going to be condominiums, townhomes. That's the breakdown. A few little apartment complexes, but that's the breakdown right now for the projects in your district. So we have a set of K6 factors and 7-8 factors, and we used the whole Santa Clarita Valley and looked at development built within the last 5-6 years and use that as our sample size to get the rates of what we think is going to be happening in your district when those units come online. And in our software, we run our forecasts down to what we call the study area level. We've broken your district down into 53 unique neighborhoods or study areas, hopefully all with about the same number of student counts. In this particular little study area here near your 2 schools has currently about 50 K-8 students. Unfortunately, the way it's broken down, it looks like a bubble's kind of moving through and it's kind of declining here. But we run 53 different forecasts. And then those yellowed, if you will, the study areas all grouped together to form what we call the Castaic Elementary School attendance area projection. Like I showed you in our matrix, you look down this current column, 301 resident K6 kids, there you go. Now what's going to happen in the boundary, in that particular boundary, is going to drop off, not too much, but that's what we're forecasting. There's not really any development going on in that area. But we also have the 3 previous years. So you can kind of see these are not projections. Anything with a 0 is a real number. So these are the real counts of kids in your grades in each of these, in this zone, this area for the last 3 years. So we do this for each of your school zones. Then we add everything all up together, and this is what we call our 7-year district-wide forecast. The orange column is your current snapshot of TK6, 7, 8, and TK8. We pulled out the out-of-district kids in your district, 45 elementary, 7 middle, and then we have them added in here. So we also have your TK and the estimates here, and the historical, as I said, here. And if you look out here, you see that for next year, we're not showing, in fact, if anything, we're showing a slight decline, not to the degree you had this year, but we're showing definite growth moving out. Before I get into the growth part, let's talk about the kindergarten. Remember I showed you before that we would have expected this last year's resident kindergarten class of 196. I'm sure if you looked at my report last year, had it probably well over 200. Unfortunately, didn't happen. And even your TK dropped off. That's by parent choice, not by what the births were in your district. So if I had not adjusted the birth rates, you would have seen numbers across this row, probably closer to this number or less. And it was just not realistic, because I do believe parents will bring back their kids. We don't know if they're bringing them back into kindergarten to repeat or move them right on to first grade, but I do believe that they will come back. So we made the adjustment to give you these numbers, which are more in line with what we were forecasting pre-COVID. And then we have all these grades, the students moving through the grades. And as you can see here at the totals, we're projecting, if all that development happens, in 7 years, you could potentially grow almost another 1,200 elementary kids and about 200 at the middle school level, for a total of almost 1,400 student growth. Again, just keep in mind, like I said, it's all based on what developers tell us. We'll have to make adjustments as the years go on, to see if the numbers move up or down. But it's all looking good, that's for sure, especially with what you've had experienced the last decade. This is just a chart showing you what I just showed you here. Down a tick, and then the development impacts start to show up here. And definitely when the larger ones kick in over here, the back end of the 5th, 6th, and 7th years of our forecast really start to take off. And you can kind of see the annual growth down here at the bottom. And as I showed you before, we look at this at not just a district-wide level, but break it down into your 3 regions. What's happening in your zones? So if you just look at your schools, it's your current resident counts in your 3 zones. And you can see, maybe Castaic's going to decline a little bit and stay stable, but look in the other 2, growth, and then big growth. So you could see that North Lake, if everything happens and you keep its boundary, it could potentially double in size in enrollment, and even more so with Live Oak. But you have future schools potentially. You could adjust boundaries to better balance your enrollment year. But this is kind of giving you a little bit of the warning sign that once certain other larger projects start, you might have to consider, when you need to trigger the building of certain schools. This also gives you, right out of the report, the areas of major growth, pretty obvious right around where the projects are. Green is growth. And there's pockets of your district that still will have some decline or stability, but this gives you a little bit of visualization of the growth. And just to summarize, as I just showed you, a little bit of a loss for next year, but it should start picking up after that quite a bit if development happens as they say it will. That's the development is what's going to drive your growth. Frankly, if you don't have much development, you're going to be at the best stable, and or just continue what you've been experiencing, which is declines, because you have kind of an aging population as it's been. But we are anticipating the larger growth to happen after 2024 with these projects hopefully kicking in, and that you need to, if all goes well, and I hope this all happens, for a change, now you're going to have to start maybe thinking, another school or 2, being planned over the next 7 years, and of course, boundary adjustments to go along with that. So I'll open up to some questions, and if you're still awake, and we'll take it from there.
I'm still awake, David.
All right. Any questions? Let me stop sharing my screen, so I have to go back. Any questions from anybody?
David, thanks so much for that. That was great. I love statistics. I like looking at that stuff. So that I appreciate that, looking at all the different angles. I do have a question for you. There's one of the things that you showed early on was the number of births in a certain area, and then how many of those students came into kindergarten. And yes. I was just curious, in your study, was there any indication where those students went? I know you mentioned they may have to stay at home because of this year, but did those students go to private school? Are they charter? Are they homeschooled? Are they? I was curious how that is.
Yeah, I wish I can give you definite answers. It would be, if anything, more anecdotal, to be honest with you. I'm not sure how much your district has done your own, surveys on the students that were there or had maybe pre-registered and then just didn't show up.
Okay.
I can say this through my own, not my own family, but I have family and friends in general. Back when we were going through all this, there was parents that were just, for lots of different reasons, super eager to get their kids back in a classroom. And until just recently, there was no public schools doing that in California, but there were private schools doing it to some degree. So I heard some pulling their kids and putting them right into there. Some of them, because parents have to work, and I'm just going to also give you, I'm sorry to go off on a little bit of a tangent here, but my company, it blows my mind. It's been a year. It's been an amazing year, good and bad, but my company literally scattered a year ago. I told you I was on that Florida trip in mid-March. I was actually in Florida during St. Patrick's Day when they still had bars open in Florida. And what was going on out here. It was very surreal as I'm getting calls from family over there. But when I came back, we essentially had to send all of our employees home. And I have employees that I have not seen in over a year. I mean, not in person. I've seen them virtually. We've all been scattered. Thank goodness my company and what I do, we're able to do virtually. But the point is, I have an employee that has a wife who's a teacher. They have a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old boy. They couldn't, for a long time, couldn't get anybody, not even a family member, to come and watch their kids while he worked at home, while she worked at home as a teacher. So you can imagine the chaos and still going on in that home. And there are people, again, very desperate to get their kids somehow back in there. The big question everyone wants to know is, are they going to bring them back? Are they going to stay in those private schools? Are they going to decide to homeschool them or do it virtual for a while? I don't know. My sister lives in Portland. She has a 5-year-old. They did it, virtually this year. She's still deciding on whether she's going to bring him back as a first grader next year or have him experience kindergarten like he should have. And that's another big thing we don't know is, are you going to have a much larger kindergarten, much larger than you anticipated, or is it just going to fall back, to what it was? I wish I could answer you, but sorry for the lengthy answer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the report. It's actually, I think, really interesting to read those and to see all the data. So I just always feel like the building is just always right outside of our reach. It's almost there, but it's never quite there. But they are grading off of Hatley Canyon. So that is hopeful, but
And you've been staring at, from your district office, almost all that grading on going up over the hills with Newhall Ranch for a couple of years now. And they're just now getting to the point that maybe they could start selling some homes. There's a lot of work that went into, and even your other projects too, you're very, what do we call it, mountainous, regions in your district. The grading takes a while.
Yeah.
So that's the other part you have to kind of be patient for.
Yeah. I also thought what was interesting was the amount of multifamily, condos and townhomes. That was good to see, because I think that helps bring in younger families with younger kids. So I hadn't seen the breakup of what was going to be what, so that I appreciated that. So anyway, thank you for coming this evening. Are there any other questions from other board members? Okay, thanks again for coming.
Thank you. Good luck with everything.
Thank you. You too. Stay safe.
You too.
Thanks.
Thank you, David. And if I could, just real quick, I wanted to give a quick update on Measure QS. There's had a lot of activity over the last couple of weeks, and just wanted to update the board on what has been going on. Middle school, we've made some significant progress over the last couple of weeks. And we're about 94% done, depending on who you talk to. But I do see the light at the end of the tunnel. We finished the drywall, and we're pushing to get the paint done, the tile done, and the flooring, and expect delivery of the lockers. And this is going to happen. We will finish that project, and it's going to happen probably worst timing when all the kids are back. So Look forward to that. The other thing is Live Oak. A lot of work has gone into that over the last month. Plans were submitted to DSA on March 5th and accepted. They're reviewing them now. We flew with RFP for a lease-back entity. It went public on March 9th. We have a job walk on March 17th. And hopefully we have sealed bids coming in on April 2nd to get to the board for hopefully an agreement to get Live Oak started. This is all very aggressive. It's kind of nerve-wracking to teams that are helping us put this together, where I think we're driving them crazy with pushing and pushing and pushing. But right now we're moving fairly quickly, and the critical date that's on our calendar is May 24th. DSA must have those plans out and stamped on May 24th. If we get that, we are in good shape. If not, then we have some talking to do. So hopefully we don't have to do that, but that's a possibility. The last thing is we're trying to schedule our Citizens Oversight Committee. We got one application in. Russell Briley had a very great application, and that's on your consent calendar. I'm hoping that we get his approval and try to get a schedule for the 16th so we can review the final financial and performance audit and get that done in the month of March. And we are back in compliance with our programs if we can get that done. We only got one application, and the bad thing about that is that only gives us 5. We need 7. So I'm inviting some of the previous members, if they're available and want to come on the 16th. We can get our COC committee meeting and get that to maybe the April or May board. Other than that, that's our facilities reports and demographics. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, turn it back to you.
Is it Lynette? Are you talking now, or?
I don't have anything more to say unless
Okay.
people have questions. We'll just can just move through the action items.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Garcia, for the report on the locker room and Live Oak. It's good to hear what's going on. So we appreciate the updates. All right, so we will now move on to the next item, the regular consent calendar. Unless the trustee has a question concerning a particular item and asks that it be withdrawn from the consent calendar, the consent items are approved with a single motion by the Board of Trustees. So is there a motion to approve the regular consent calendar?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay.
We all had to unmute at the same
I'm like,
time.
come on, guys, don't leave me hanging here.
Sorry.
That's the consent calendar.
Did you get me going like this?
I didn't see it. I'm so sorry. All right. So motion by Mr. Richard, second by Ms. Pearson, and we will, unless there's a discussion, we'll now vote to approve the consent calendar. I'm trying to remember mentally who goes first. I didn't write it down ahead of time. Ms. Maxon.
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm.
Aye.
Mr. Richard.
Aye.
Ms. Pearson.
Aye.
And aye. Motion passes. Okay, we will now move on to the action items. And item number 1 is approval of reopening grades 7 through 8 for in-classroom instruction. And the plan is, and I'm just going to read it, on February 15th, CUSD was advised by the LA County Department of Health that Los Angeles County's COVID-19 case rate was 20 per 100,000 cases, meeting the criteria to bring back students in grades TK through 2. Oh, wait, sorry. I really just wanted to skip to, the 7th grade. So now we've moved down to 7 new cases, or I think it's even less now, per 100,000 people. And it's proposed that we open up the middle school. So can I get a motion to pass this?
I move.
Okay, motion by Ms. Maxon.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Richard. And discussion.
So we all, I don't think, thought we'd get here this quickly, but we're really excited that we have the opportunity now to bring our 7th and 8th graders back. I've asked Mr. Browneisen to be on this call with us. I know he's been working diligently all fall, planning for this opportunity, and it is different for 7 through 12 students because they don't have a core teacher their entire day like a traditional elementary student. So I think first of all, Bob, I'll let you talk through the survey data, and I believe Mrs. Tredick has that to share for us, that you've been soliciting input from your families.
Correct. Correct. 3 weeks ago, we sent out just a basic survey trying to prepare mentally to what the dynamic was of our parents wanting to come back. And it was fairly similar to this. Just recently, a week ago, I sent out a survey that was much more simpler. 3 questions: first name, last name, grade level, are you coming back or not? And this is the response that we received. So out of my 7th graders, which is the red, 99.
That was all students, and this is the 7th grade.
Okay, so 7th grade students, 100 of the students say that they'll return. 47 said they will not return. If I can get Mrs. Buntich to unmute herself, because these numbers have slightly changed because we started calling people today to get answers to make up for the 20-25% that chose not to respond. What we're finding is about 72 students overall that were part of CVC a lot of them did not respond, and they are choosing to stay in CVC, which was their choice from the beginning of the year. I believe our number, Ms. Buntich, was 17 or 12 CVC families want to come back to school.
The number was 17 families have changed from CVC and wish to come back to school now.
So we have a little flip of some people that said that they want to come back are choosing not to. And then we have some that decided that they wanted to leave CVC to come back to in person. If we look at 8th grade, I have close to 118 students saying they want to come back, close to 70%. And it looks like our numbers overall, we're kind of sitting on that 70, all students, we're looking at that 70%, 68.8, 70% that say that they want to come back to in-person instruction. I think we're still holding out for probably about 20 more families. We're probably at about 20 more families that we have not heard from. We should know that by tomorrow.
So part of the requirements from the Department of Public Health for 7 through 12 students is that you create what they call stable groups, because we know that students have multiple teachers and we have credential issues with our teachers as well. So I know the public health's ideal plan is for you to keep those stable groups between 60 to 80 students, preferably not to exceed 100 students. So with those rules, Bob, how does that work with the students you have planned back and figuring out what your stable groups look like?
Well, so currently we're looking at changing the schedule and making sure that there's no there's no classes that have 7th and 8th graders together. And we would put 7th grade as one stable group, and then we would put 8th grade as one stable group. Considering that, if I think that number, Ms. Tredick, was about 168 8th graders, ballpark, half of them would be Monday, Tuesday, the other half would be Thursday, Friday. So we would meet our numbers based on the cohorts of a schedule that's a Monday, Tuesday cohort and a Thursday, Friday cohort.
And seventh grade would be
like-
less because you have less students.
Yeah, we have less. I mean, we have less students in those numbers, and we've looked at some safety measures to work within those numbers as well. But being at a secondary school and being where that you have six different teachers to change schedules, if we were going to try to make the stable groups any smaller, we're a small school as is. We have a grand total of 436 students. Being a small school, we worked out maybe 8 to 10 different options, possible solutions to make our cohorts even smaller. But you can't make it much smaller than what we already are, needing to have six teachers. So if you look at 6 teachers with 15, 16 students per teacher, we achieved that we achieved this at this point. We were looking for a 4-period day. We were looking at trying to do a 6-period day. If we do a 6-period day, the classes are only 30 minutes long. The suggestion from LACO is that you do a block schedule. Well, we're already in a block schedule, so then we scratched that plan because we wanted to stay with their recommendation, and the recommendation was doing a block schedule, 3 classes a day. So we stayed with that. How our schedule would look is exactly how it is right now, with a 8:35 start, no nutrition, 3 classes, 75 minutes long each, 10-minute passing period, 5 to 10-minute passing period, with a 12:45 dismissal, with grab and go lunch for those that need lunch, with the students leaving, teachers then having their own lunch, and then teachers having office hours for those students that were working asynchronously at home. Now, the teachers have decided to do a room and Zoom teaching. That way they can get those that are at home started on the assignments, and then meet with them at the end of the day if there were any additional questions. Those students would still be connected while the teacher's teaching, but there will come a point where the teacher, once they do their instruction, the teacher needs to focus on the students that are in person to provide additional support for the in-person students.
So LADPH recognizes that students are going to have to change teachers, but the concept behind the stable group is that those kids all stay with each other and they only are switching amongst 3 teachers in your block schedule, right?
That's correct. And so if you had to do contact tracing, you can limit the size of the group, which would make it easier if there was a case. The larger the group, the harder it makes it to do contact tracing. The reason why we will not have exploratories that have 7th and 8th graders together, because if there was an outbreak or a case in 7th grade and then there was a blended exploratory, it would go into another stable learning group, and that's what we're trying to prevent.
And the earlier start time is earlier than the elementary schools, is to accommodate busing to allow us to bus into CMS and then also run the elementary school buses, right?
I wish I could claim that was strategic, but we basically kept our regular start time that we always have, and it happened to work out that way. Although I did offer to start sooner if it meant our students could get transportation. Leslie and Lynette have been very helpful in trying to procure transportations for some of our most needy students. We have been able to, at the very beginning, when I did my very, very first survey, I was told that no transportation would be available. Then we were able to work with transportation and they really want to get kids to school, which is a great partner to have. With that, we're looking right now at 4 stops, possibly expanding the 4, but right now I believe the stops are Violin Canyon, Templin, Valverde, and I think a stop on Hasley. That's where I believe roughly this is where we are. We haven't locked it in yet, but that seems to be a final rough draft of our bus stops.
Bob, what about electives? How are you handling that? What's your thought on that?
You know, I've talked to many parents with phone calls. They really want to experience what middle school is about, and part of that is the exploratory experience and experience some of the unique opportunities that we have at CMS. We could probably still do horticulture because it's working with plants. Our culinary arts would be two students per kitchen. We could probably work out some of that. We would like to do some loss of learning, and we would like to provide opportunities for the students in exploratories that they missed out in the year of COVID. So we're in discussion right now of possibly trying to do the frog dissection for our current 8th graders who did not get it as 7th graders, and of our current 7th graders. We would work that out somewhere in the exploratory. To me, that's a loss of learning. To me, that's the ability of giving them an experience of middle school that they need when they get to high school. Another part was a Pinewood Derby experiments that are done in 8th grade. Very important, teaches a lot of physical science concepts that they need before they get to high school. We will pepper in some loss of learning math and loss of learning ELA as well, in between the enrichment and the exploratory activities. Something that we really can't offer is music. Music has that limitation, and it would be a difficult one to offer. We might be able to offer advanced band, weather permitting, outside, 10 feet apart. You know, I mean, we could probably do some of that. We're taking some guidance from the band teachers in the Heart District of how they're offering it, but I can't guarantee that because I'm not sure that will actually work out. But it is, a lot of our exploratories will address the loss of learning while the students are back, trying to get them somewhat caught up with concepts that they need before they go to high school and what they need before they go to 8th grade.
So are there questions for Mr. Browneisen, board members?
Let me share one more thing is Tony and I and Ms. Buntich, we walk the school site and we will have on the ground directional arrows in which paths students may travel. And so the school will have a big giant loop with everyone traveling in the same direction, just a precaution to not have people walking opposite directions. And that will be something that we're starting to lay out and walk through and make sure that we have the right pathways set forth. We also will dedicate bathrooms to be a 7th grade cohort bathroom and an 8th grade cohort bathroom. So we also have the bathrooms separated for the uniqueness of each group, so that keeps them more stable.
So the recommendation tonight was similar to the one we had last month. As I mentioned earlier, we think LA County is going to move into the red tier next week. From what Dr. Farrar said on our call this morning, she said the earliest will probably be Monday. The latest would probably be Wednesday of next week. With that being said, this recommendation is would allow for us to bring our 7th and 8th graders back, half of them in the hybrid model, the following Monday, March 22nd. So with that, I'll turn it over to board members for questions for Mr. Browneisen or myself.
No
Hearing
questions?
none?
Are there any questions? Well, I want to thank Mr. Browneisen for the tour I got of the school today. I got to see, you know, you guys are like ready. so that was good to see. Good to see all the teachers there today.
And I know this isn't the time for one thing that you saw, but can you share what you saw in our foods class?
Oh my goodness. In culinary arts, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, culinary.
Yeah. So the teacher, she was teaching pasta, like cooking pasta. And it was really interesting because I'm sure all teachers are feeling this way right now. It's like you're basically on a TV show, right? And so it was like watching a cooking show. And so she taught the kids, you know, she's got the camera and all of her ingredients set up. And it was fun because we kind of waited long enough to listen to her give the rest of the instruction on cooking pasta. And apparently I learned
Shut the door.
What? Someone said something. Okay. I learned that you don't rinse your noodles if you're going to add sauce because the starch in the noodles helps bind the sauce to the noodles. So anyway, it was like we were both waiting to like leave the classroom, but we had to hear how the lesson ended. So anyway, that was fun. So, okay. If there aren't any questions or
I have
any
a question.
discussion, okay.
Okay, so with this whole process of us considering 7th and 8th grade back, Steve, has there been any consideration of having, we're going into spring break, so technically they would be coming back to school to go out for another week. And if we wait until after spring break, the teachers will have a chance to take their second vaccination.
I understand that point. I feel like we're ready to bring them back. And in talking to Bob, he would prefer to bring them back and work out some of the kinks, if we have any, to make some adjustments for when we return after spring break. I know Hart is planning to bring their students back. They publicized that they're planning for the 29th, the following week. So I just feel like we've got our TK through 6 back. And if we have the opportunity, my recommendation is we bring our 7th and 8th grade back on the 22nd.
Okay, if there aren't any other questions, then we will vote now. Ms. Maxon?
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm?
No.
Okay. Mr. Richard?
Aye.
Ms. Pearson?
No.
Okay, and I vote aye. So motion passes. Thank you. Thank you for Mr. Browneisen for staying.
You're welcome.
For that discussion.
Thank you.
Okay, so action item number 2 is approval of AB 922 Los Angeles County Plan for Expelled Students. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by Ms. Pearson.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Richards. Any discussion or questions? Okay, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon?
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm?
Aye.
Mr. Richards?
Aye.
Ms. Pearson?
Aye.
And aye by me, Ms. Burke. Motion passes. Item number 3 is approval of second interim budget. Is there a motion? Can I get a motion?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by Ms. Pearson.
And I'll second.
Second by Mr. Malcolm. And I think Ms. Phippen probably has a report or a presentation for us.
Yes, I do. Hi, everyone. Waiting for Dell to. We need to, if you can go back a few slides, Dell, that's towards the end, please. Thank you. Okay, second interim budget report. Here we are. So the second interim budget report is information that data and information that we know through January 31st. And it's important to say that because a lot has happened since January 31st. But we're going to go through it, and when we get to the end, we'll talk about some of that. So Del, thank you. So the objective here will be to review the second interim report, talk about a little bit about enrollment, and a legislative update. Next slide, please. Thank you. So certification of financial condition, great news. We have positive certification once again. It's always nice to kick it off with some great news. So there we are. So revenue versus expenditure projections, we are consistent with projections from first interim. And again, these projections are, go back. Yeah, there we go. These projections are with data and information that we had through January 31st. And I keep emphasizing that, and you'll see why when we get towards the end. So next slide, please. These percentages have not changed from first interim. So you'll see that the majority of our revenue is LCFF. And then we have our federal, local, and state revenue as of January 31st. So our second interim projection expenditures, very slight change. At first interim, 79% of the budget was salary and benefits. At second interim, it's 80% of the budget. And at first interim, we had 1% for capital outlay, and that dropped to less than 1%. So for the purpose of this slide, 0% at second interim. Other than that, no significant changes at this point. So ending fund balance, reserves, actuals, and projections. So you'll see for 2021, our beginning fund balance was 7.5, revenue projection 22.4, expenditures 22, with an ending balance projection of 7.9, of which 1.2 is restricted. And that 7.9 does include our required 5% reserve. And then the projections for 21 and 22 reflect higher restricted ending fund balances, and that is due to one-time COVID money that we are projected to receive. And we will see a little bit more about that here in a couple of slides. So budget assumptions based on actuals and other information that I had as of January 31st. So as I indicated at first interim, our revenues for transportation, leases, rentals, donations, and community preschool this school year are greatly reduced due to COVID. We do have increased restricted expenditures due to COVID because we are receiving restricted one-time COVID money. Therefore, we are spending that restricted one-time COVID money. This year, I've begun to budget money for server equipment replacement ongoing based on conversations with Dell. That's something that we need to have in the budget each year because he does need to do some of that work. For this school year, there was no LCFF COLA projected, but we do have COLA built into the LCFF projections for next school year and for 22-23. Multi-year projection assumptions, again, based on information that I had as of January 31st. Our LCFF projections, as you may know, are based on our ADA. And you look at either your prior year or your current year ADA, and you base your projection on the higher of the two. For this year, our ADA is derived from the 1920 school year, which is 1,944. And this will become a little more apparent on the enrollment slide. But the 22-23 LCFF will also be based on either higher or lower or excuse me, higher of the current year or prior year ADA. And it will be projected to be based on the current year ADA of 1,809. The ESSER 2 funding that we are projected to receive is included in the multi-year projection in year 21-22. And there is no additional COVID-19 funding projected in this multi-year projection because I did not know about it, or it was not confirmed as of January 31st. So here is the enrollment in ADA. And I do want to say that this chart, a lot of the data on this chart is derived from that Davis demographics report. So I was very excited to get a new report and I really enjoyed his presentation this evening. I wish he was still here to hear me say that, but I really do, Maureen, like you, enjoy hearing all of that and reading the report. And I have it tabbed at my desk and I look at it throughout the year. And so for me, that's very exciting. But anyway, so you'll see that our ADA for this school year is 1,944. I have not had to report ADA this year like I normally do because of an ADA hold harmless agreement that automatically looked at the 1920 school year for us. If you look at next school year, you will see that our ADA is projected to be 1,731. So our LCFF projection will actually be based on this year's ADA of 1,944 because it is the higher of the 2 years. And then when we get to the 22-23 school year, the LCFF projection will be based on the ADA of 1,809 because it is higher than the prior year of 1,731. So that little incline that we're going to start seeing in our student growth will be very helpful. So here's the fund chart, the one-time restricted coronavirus funding. We have a lot of buckets of money coming to us. And I'm going to credit Kim with this because we were talking earlier today and I referred to them as buckets of money and she referred to them as like gift cards. And so I decided I would use that analogy this evening because I think a lot of people can relate to that. So when you receive a gift card, you can only spend it at the store that it is for, like Starbucks or Target. And you can think of each of these programs as a gift card. And it can only be spent at how we are allowed to spend it. Each of these programs has restrictions, requirements, and reporting. And once we've spent the amount, it's gone. It's one time. So you'll see on this chart, I tried to demonstrate the information that we have right now. And I put them in order by when we have to spend the funds. So like the SB 117 money, we received that last April and there is no spend by date on that. And that is out of the restricted money, that is the least restrictive of the restrictive money. And then we moved down from that, the CRF funding, the coronavirus relief funding, federal money. We did receive all of that in September. And originally we had to have it spent by December of 2020. And in the 11th hour, we were notified that that date was pushed to May of 2021, but we had already spent it. So we worked really hard to make sure that we, used that money first because we had also received the Prop 98 money, which has a spend by date of June of 2021. And so we are now working on that money for the different programs and professional development and PPE and everything that we are buying. I'm going to skip over AB 86 for just a minute and move into GEAR, ESSER, and ESSER 2. You'll see that we've received partial of the GEAR and the ESSER. And when I say partial, I mean about $24,000 each on those. But the good news is that we have until September of 2022 to spend that money. And the ESSER 2 money, we have not received any of that as of yet. So all of the programs in black are included in the current year and multi-year projections. The two in purple, AB 86 and ESSER 3, we just found out about. And that's important to note because the AB 86 money is the in-person instruction and expanded learning opportunities grant. And that's the one that has the component, the incentive for schools to reopen. And I consider this to be like a timing windfall for us because we were already planning to reopen before we received confirmation of this money. We submitted our reopening plan to the Department of Public Health back in November, and we're talking about it at our December board meeting that we wanted to reopen in January. We just received confirmation of this dollar amount last week. The governor and the legislature just came to an agreement on this AB 86 money on March 1st. And so we just literally found out about it, which is why it is not in the multi-year projection or the second interim budget right now. We are projected to receive our first apportionment of this AB 86 money in May, and then the second apportionment in August of 21, which will be the next school year. ESSER 3 money, this one's kind of funny to me. This will demonstrate how quickly things can change. When I was putting all of my notes together today for this meeting, I wrote down that the president would be signing the, what's it called? The, why am I drawing a blank on this now? The American Relief Act, I think is what they're calling it. It's supposed to be signed tomorrow. And then later on in the day, I read online that he had already signed it. So my notes were already outdated and I had just made them maybe a few hours, prior. So this money, the 1.7 is a projection right now by School Services of California of how much we will be receiving. And so obviously, no, we have not received any of it yet. And the spend by date on this is September of 2023. So the two in purple you will see in the multi-year projection at estimated actuals. I know that was a lot of information. Are there any questions about that?
Julia, I'm sorry, the two, the AB 86 and ESSER 3, that's multi-year or is that one-time money?
It's one-time money, but we will receive it in apportionments. So the AB 86 money, we'll get our first apportionment in May, so in a couple of months. The second apportionment is projected to come in August of 2021, so next school year. And then we don't have to spend it by August 2022. So it is one-time money, but we have a long period of time to spend it.
Okay.
And Ms. Fippen?
Yes.
Is there any strings attached to that money, any requirements that we have to make to receive that money?
So the AB 86 money, we already have met the requirement by having a reopening plan. And I think there was another plan that Kim could speak to, but we've met the requirements for all of this money. To my knowledge,
there's nothing that you guys have heard that's going to come in that we might need to prep for.
I can add a little bit. So today I found out that there will be some report. There's a reporting portal that we're going to have to identify exactly how many kids in every grade are back, how many staff members we have working. They're probably going to ask for maybe homeless or foster youth because you get bumps for each of those different subgroups of students. So I believe that's how they're going to allocate the apportionment on the 15th, because that first reporting window is March 22nd. So we have a training next week to find out what all the details are, and then we'll work with the school sites to get that data to put
Perfect.
in the portal.
Perfect. Thank you.
And Julia, you might talk about the reporting that you do for each of the different buckets, because I think that that's what Mr. Malcolm was asking about.
Okay, so every program that is restricted, it has its own type of reporting. And you would think that because it's all coronavirus money, that maybe the reporting would all be the same, but it's not. And I've already been doing reporting for GEAR and ESSER and for CRF. And they're all different, all required at different times. And there's multiple reporting that's required. And I'll use CRF as an example. I had to report dollar amounts for different criteria that was established. And then within those dollar amounts, I'll take technology, for example. I had to report how much money we spent in technology at a certain time period for CRF. And then within that dollar amount for technology, I then had to break it out percentage-wise for, was it Chromebooks, or was it hotspots, or was it this, or was it that? And so, I mean, I really had to drill it down. And our system is not, our accounting system is not set up to deliver reporting that way. I basically get a data dump in an Excel spreadsheet, and I have to attempt to manipulate that data into a usable format in order to comply with these reporting requirements. Obviously, I don't know yet what the reporting for AB 86 or ESSER 3 is going to look like, but I'm going to guess that it won't be the same as ESSER 2 or ESSER 1 or GEAR or CRF. So I'm, waiting and anticipating and stressing a little bit about that, because it all seems to come in at one time. And the notification window is very short. It's usually, hey, it's Monday and we need your report by Friday. And here's the template that we just developed, and it may or may not work. Good luck. So it keeps things very interesting.
Can I add one more thing? So I know the AB 86 money, the majority of that, I want to say, I think it's like 1.2 million is specifically for learning loss, for extended learning opportunities like summer school or intersession or extending the day, those types of things. There is a requirement for that piece of the money to have a plan approved by the board in June, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, by June 1st.
I was going to say June 1st,
May.
not
Yes.
So our May
Still in
meeting.
May.
Okay.
It doesn't, of course, coincide with our LCAP adoption. I'm not sure why they couldn't coordinate those two things. But
Well, and it's called an expenditure plan, but there is no template available yet.
Yes.
sorry, Julia.
No, that's okay. It's the information is obviously what Steve was talking about, that reporting. I had not read or heard about that yet. So the information is coming in very quickly, and it's coming in from different sources. Lynette sent me a slide deck of a presentation that she saw the other day that I hadn't seen yet, that had information that I was not aware of. So I'm just, trying to compile it all per program, so we have what we need to make sure we comply, because of course we will be audited on all of this as well. And I'm waiting to hear from the auditors on what type of documentation we need to have for all of these programs, because they don't know yet. So it's, we're working through it as the information comes in.
They make it very easy on you, huh?
It's great.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I like numbers and I like data, so it definitely keeps my day interesting, for sure. Are there any other questions about this slide? Okay. And I did also want to talk about, there is additional possible funding coming in the way of a SPED early intervention grant for preschool. But this is not included in the MYP right now because there has been no consensus on it so far. There's a lot of different recommendations on what this should look like and how we should receive it. So it's out there. And I think that Jackie's probably excited about this one, should we actually see it. And so we're going to keep watching this one as well. So the next steps, continue to monitor everything we just talked about. I am waiting to hear from the auditors on when they're going to start doing the preliminary work on the audit for this school year. I will start estimated actuals in about 3 weeks. And year-end closing, believe it or not, I think Lynette mentioned it earlier, we are starting to look towards that. We have some purchasing cutoffs coming up in the next couple of weeks. And Megan, Sue, and myself will be prepping up for that. And lastly, projected balances in other funds. This has not changed much from first interim. And so are there any questions about this? Okay, I think that's the last slide.
I'm surprised to see so much left in school facilities. Jaime likes spending it.
Actually, Jaime's, he's conservative. He really is. I give him a lot of credit. He'll come by and say, he did it today. I have an expenditure coming up. I just want to let you know about it. I have to buy some lighting for the middle school. Okay, Jaime, it's no problem. Do what you got to do. The kids need light. So I give him credit. He actually is pretty conservative with his spending.
I'm putting a PO in for our maintenance truck.
Wait a minute.
Do you need any struts?
The birthday present.
I need some fuel injectors.
I was waiting for that, Fred.
That's what it was, not struts.
All right, are there any questions for Ms. Phippen? All right, we will go ahead and have our vote now. We'll start with Ms. Maxon.
Hi. Thanks, Julia and Lynette and everybody. Awesome report. I appreciate all
Yes,
the work.
very good.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Ms. Max. Okay. Oh, okay. Thanks. Okay, Mr. Malcolm.
Aye.
Mr. Richards.
Aye.
Ms. Pearson.
Aye.
And an aye by Ms. Burke. Motion passes. All right. So item number 4, approval of developer fee refund. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Pearson.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Richards. Any discussion? All right, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon.
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm.
Aye.
Mr. Richards.
Aye.
Ms. Pearson.
Aye.
And an aye by Ms. Burke. Motion passes. Item number 5, approval of independent contractor agreement between Castaic Union School District and Gina Fu LEP. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Richards.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Malcolm. Any discussion? Okay, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon.
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm.
Aye.
Mr. Richards.
Aye.
Ms. Pearson.
Aye.
And an aye by Ms. Burke. I was about to call for myself. Okay, motion passes. All right, item number 6, approval of SHI Fortinet agreement. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Pearson,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Malcolm. Any discussion? All right, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon.
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm.
Aye.
Mr. Richards.
Aye.
Ms. Pearson.
Aye.
And an aye by Ms. Burke. Motion passes. Item number 7, approval of Chromebook replacement. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion. Or sorry, Janine.
Okay, motion by Ms. Maxon,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Richards. Any discussion?
Seems like we just started these yesterday. It's kind of like that constant replacement, but I know we need to have them.
Yes. All right, any other discussion? All right, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon.
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm.
Aye.
Mr. Richards.
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and I by Ms. Burke. Motion passes. Item number 8, approval of purchase for Chrome carts. And yes, Laura, we just bought these too.
And you have to have the carts for the.
Yeah, gotta have the carts. Okay, is there a
Make a motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Richards,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Malcolm. Any discussion? All right, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm,
Aye.
Mr. Richards,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by Ms. Burke. Motion passes. Number 9, approval of division of the state architect plan review fee for Live Oak Elementary School. Is there a motion?
I move.
All. Yeah.
I don't know who went first.
Janine.
Okay, motion by Ms. Maxon,
And I'll second.
second by Ms. Pearson. Any discussion? How about just, that's awesome. So
That's great.
excited.
That's fantastic. Yes, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia and Business Services for getting that, to that point. So, all right, and we will now vote.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Ms. Maxon just voted aye. Mr. Malcolm,
Aye.
Mr. Richards,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by Ms. Burke. Motion passes. Number 10, approval of proposal from Alpha AV.
I'll move.
Okay, motion
Yes.
by Mr. Richards.
Second.
Second by
Oh, fine.
Mr. Malcolm. Any discussion? All right, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm,
Aye.
Mr. Richards,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson, sorry,
Aye.
and an aye by Ms. Burke. Motion passes. Item number 11, approval of proposal from refrigeration supplies distributor. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by Ms. Pearson,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Richards. Any discussion? All right, we'll now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm,
Aye.
Mr. Richards,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by Ms. Burke. Motion passes. Item number item number 12, first reading to delete old board policy and administrative regulation and adopt new board policy and administrative regulation 0430, comprehensive local plan for special education. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Pearson,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Maxon. Any discussion? All right, we'll now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm,
Aye.
Mr. Richards,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by Ms. Burke. I think we all heard the dog toy, Fred. All right. I just said motion passes. All right. So item number 13, first reading to delete old policy and adopt new board policy 3280, seller lease of district-owned real property.
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Richards,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Pearson. Any discussion? All right, we'll now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm,
Aye.
Mr. Richards,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson, Ms. Pearson.
She
Laura?
looks like she froze.
Oh no, she's frozen.
Just let it go. Let it go.
What do you mean, Fred?
Frozen.
Oh, okay, sorry. It's too late for frozen jokes. All right, I'm not sure if we procedurally, if we just
I
continue
would
to
proceed. It's 4
proceed.
ayes and
Okay,
a frozen.
All right. All right. An aye by Ms. Burke. So there's 4 ayes and the motion passes. Okay, item number 14, first reading to adopt revised board policy 3530, risk management / insurance. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by Mr. Richard, I'm sorry, by Mr. Malcolm.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Richards. Any discussion? Okay, is it okay if we just keep voting?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But we're gonna vote now. Ms. Maxon, sorry. Okay, Mr. Malcolm,
Aye.
Mr. Richards,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson is not back with us yet, and an aye by Ms. Burke. Motion passes. Item number 15, first reading to delete old administrative regulation and adopt new administrative regulation 3530 risk management insurance. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Malcolm.
I'll second.
Okay, second by Ms. Maxon. Any discussion? All right, we'll now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm,
Aye.
Mr. Richards.
Aye.
I don't see Ms. Pearson yet, and an aye by Ms. Burke. Motion passes. Item number 17, first reading to adopt revised board policy and administrative regulation 4157, employee safety.
Maureen, did we skip one?
Did I skip something?
I'm
Yes.
sorry, maybe I'm making sure I was
What did I
following.
skip? What did I skip? Number 16?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Sorry,
Okay.
Maureen, I didn't mean to under.
Item number 16, first reading to adopt revised board policy and administrative regulation 4119.25, political activities of employees.
I'll move.
Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Richards,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Malcolm. Any discussion? All right, we'll now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm,
Aye.
Mr. Richards.
Aye.
And I don't see Ms. Pearson yet, and an aye by Ms. Burke. Motion passes. Okay, now number 17, first reading to adopt revised board policy and administrative regulation 4157, employee safety. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Maxon,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Richards. Any discussion? All right, we'll now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm,
Aye.
Mr. Richards,
Aye.
and an aye by Ms. Burke. Motion passes. Item number, oh, Laura Pearson's calling. Can I answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Laura. Okay. Let me ask Mr. Doyle. Her spectrum is not working. Do you want her to vote over the phone, Mr. Doyle, or how do you want to handle that?
She would, Dale, help me here.
Yeah.
Should call in?
Yeah, I don't know.
She can call into the number
on the Zoom link.
on the Zoom link or join with
Okay.
her phone.
You can call, do you still have cell service? Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Thanks, Laura. All right. Bye-bye. All right. She's going to try again. So Dal, maybe you can help her troubleshoot that.
Sure.
Maybe you
I'll
can call
keep
her.
an eye on the waiting room,
Okay.
and if she calls in, we'll get it
All
through
right.
on audio.
And I don't know if
That's
there's
too
a
bad.
way you can walk her through it over the phone, or I don't know what. So, all right. Sorry, guys. Okay. Item number 18, first reading to adopt new administrative regulation 4157.1, work-related injuries. There a motion?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by Mr. Malcolm,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Richards. Any discussion? Okay, all right, but we're ready to vote now. So Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm,
Aye.
Mr. Richards,
Aye.
and an aye by Ms. Burke. Motion passes. All right, item number 19, first reading to delete old board policy and administrative regulation and adopt new board policy and administrative regulation 5126, awards for achievement. Is there a motion? Are you moving, Mr. Malcolm? Is that what that is?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Yes.
motion by Mr. Malcolm,
not trying to hog them all.
It's okay.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Richards. Any discussion? All right, we'll now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm,
Aye.
Mr. Richards,
Aye.
and an aye by Ms. Burke. Motion passes. All right. Item number 20, first reading to adopt revised board policy and exhibit 6161.1, selection and evaluation of instructional materials.
I'll move.
Motion by
Sorry,
Mr.
Jenny.
Richards,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Maxon. And I did have a question that I wanted to ask Mr. Doyle. I know that we sometimes anyway, I'd like a little bit more notice, I guess, when this is going to be on the agenda, when we're adopting new instructional material, new curriculum. And so, I mean, anyway, so I just wondered if we can maybe discuss a time frame of how we would maybe do that, because anyway,
Sure,
I think the
I'll
last
get
one, it was
together.
like, I found out the week before, right? Like when the agenda came out. So, and I know that we probably talk about it a year before, but stuff happens and, anyway, so.
Yeah,
if there's a
typically
way-
they're piloted for 6 months to a year by a group of teachers, the different curriculums before they vote on and select one to bring to the board. But I'll work with Mrs. Tredick and we'll work out a process. There has been some more controversial type of curriculum, so I understand the need to review those materials before we vote on them. So we'll make sure that happens.
And also just, I think in general, it's something I would enjoy going and seeing the materials ahead of time anyway for anything. So, just to know what we're voting on and have a little bit of time to actually look at them. So thank you so much for that. All right. Are there any questions or comments by other board members? Okay. Then we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm,
Aye.
Mr. Richards,
Aye.
and an aye by Ms. Burke. Motion passes. Item number 21, first reading to delete old administrative regulation and adopt new administrative regulation 6161.1, selection and evaluation of instructional materials. Is there a motion? Oh, I think I see Ms. Pearson there. All right.
I'm here.
Did you hear that what the last item is, Ms. Pearson? Do you want me to
No.
read that again? Okay.
Please.
So item number 21, first reading to delete old administrative regulation and adopt new administrative regulation 6161.1, selection and evaluation of instructional materials. Can I get a motion?
Okay, thank
I'll
you.
move.
In that case, I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Malcolm, and Laura, did you second that?
Yes.
And second by Ms. Pearson. Any discussion? And actually, Laura, I was going to tell you, the previous item was similar to this one about adopting instructional materials. And I just asked Mr. Doyle that maybe we talk about a process where we get a little bit of time to be able to review the materials prior to it being on the agenda. So,
Okay.
anyway. All right, are there any questions or just any discussion by other board members? Okay, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm,
Aye.
Mr. Richards,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by Ms. Burke. Motion passes. First reading to adopt revised board bylaw 9012, board member electronic communications. Is there a motion? Was that a motion by Ms. Pearson?
Sure.
I'll second it.
It's like an auction. If you make any noise, it's you. All right, so motion by Ms. Pearson, second by Mr. Richards. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? All right, we will now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm,
Aye.
Mr. Richards,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by Ms. Burke. Motion passes. Item number 23, first reading to adopt revised Board Bylaw 9320, meetings and notices. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by Ms. Pearson,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Malcolm. Any discussion? All right, we'll now vote. Ms. Maxon,
Aye.
Mr. Malcolm,
Aye.
Mr. Richards,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by Ms. Burke. Motion passes. All right, we will now move on to the reports and information. Do I just read this first line here on Mr. Doyle? It's item number 1
Yeah.
under reports and information is they're going to present CUSD Board of Trustees the 2020-2021 reopener to Castaic Teachers Association and therefore sunshine the proposal at a public meeting. So they're sunshining their meeting. So are we?
Lynette, anything to
Okay.
add?
No, actually, it's
I'm
just
sorry
to
to
sunshine
interrupt.
to the public what the
We-
two.
We have someone in the waiting room and I don't recognize the name, but I don't want it to be Laura and me not letting her in.
It's me.
Okay.
It is me.
Eileen?
Eileen.
Okay, Eileen, okay.
Yes, I was just getting ready to vet that, so
Okay.
I will let your alter ego in.
I
And I
don't
will-
need to change
yeah.
that. It's a friend of mine that has paid for Zoom. I've never paid for it, so she gave me her password.
I would imagine you want to. Well, welcome, Eileen.
All right.
So the sunshining is just for, is actually for the public to see what the district is going to open for negotiations. And then the other one is so the public can see what CTA is opening for negotiations. It isn't something that needs to be voted on. It's just for the public to be able to see it.
Okay. All right. So we don't need there's no discussion or anything. We're just acknowledging the sunshine of the proposal at the meeting. So, all right. Is it okay to move on to the next item, Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Okay. So then there's discussion. Did you have anything for that? Okay. And then any future agenda items that someone wanted to bring up?
Will we get CSEA's proposal for our next meeting for sunshine?
I think that was Jody's plan.
Yes, that is our plan. We got it back and I just need it ratified by my members. And so I hope to have it to Lynette next week.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, if there's no other discussion items or future agenda items that anyone wanted to bring up, we can now, is there a motion to close the meeting?
Maureen, I have a quick question.
Yes.
On the new materials, the books and materials that you requested that we see ahead of time, is the process still the same as it used to? Well, Steve, how would you know that? That the teachers come together, they go over all of the books and then they decide and bring the recommendation to us?
Yes.
Okay.
They pilot them.
Okay.
They usually have presentations and then they choose a few, they pilot them and try them out. And then they kind of vote collectively and make a recommendation with Kim and they bring it back to you.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was just wondering that because we haven't seen the presentations. So, yeah.
We'll talk about that. We'll get you a timeline, bring it in a future meeting on what that would look like for an adoption.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Doyle.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Kim, or Ms. Tredick for accommodating that request. All right. Can I get a motion to close the meeting?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by Mr. Richards.
I'll second.
We'll all second, all third.
Right here, bud.
Second by Mr. Malcolm. We will now vote. Ms. Maxon? Ms. Maxon, we're going to vote to, okay. Is that an aye?
Mouthing aye.
Okay. All right. Mr. Malcolm?
Aye.
Mr. Richards,
Aye.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
and an aye by Ms. Burke. This meeting is adjourned at 9 p.m. Thanks, guys.